Now that Cardell Hayes has seen his manslaughter conviction overturned in the killing of former Saints star Will Smith, his attorneys are wasting no time getting him back in court.
In fact, their first move will come this week, as Mike Pearlstein explains.
When the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that non-unanimous jury verdicts are unconstitutional, attorneys for Cardell Hayes were quick to get his 10-2 manslaughter verdict thrown out. Now the defense team wants Hayes free and back home.
Everyone has a right to presumption of innocence, to proving guilty, and have the opportunity to defend themselves while not being incarcerated.
Defense attorney Eric Santana said he is filing a motion to have bail set for Hayes, but much lower than the $1 million bail that was set before his 2016 trial in the killing of Saints star Will Smith. At that trial, the jury rejected a murder conviction. Prosecutors say Hayes shot Smith 8 times and wounded his wife Raquel after a road rage confrontation on Magazine Street. At trial, Hayes said he shot in self-defense.
His bond should be based on the charge of manslaughter and not second-degree murder.
Santana said he has not talked to prosecutors, but with DA Jason Williams replacing former DA Leon Cannizzaro, the case could proceed differently this time, including a possible plea deal.
Be dealing with a new administration, so may be dealing with a new set of circumstances.
Santana said his client's spotless disciplinary record during his 4 years in prison will show he deserves a chance at bail. Mike Pearlstein, Eyewitness News.
We reached out to the DA's office for comment, but we have not heard back yet.